What's going on? This is podcast 129, episode number 10. I am Hunter Waldrop. That is Jake Stinchcomb, live from the Peach State. Jake, how we doing on this fine Tuesday evening, brother?
I'm good, man. Still recovering a little bit from my weekend in Lexington, trying to catch up on sleep because it was a long weekend. But ready to dive into it. Ready for what is this, week 4?
Yeah, we're doing week 3 recap.
We're doing week 3, but we're coming up on week 4 already.
That's right. That's right.
Crazy. Time's flying. But yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, Jake, I'll let you do some advertising for us.
Yes, sir. As always, go follow us on all of our socials. We're out on Instagram, X, and TikTok now. Still working on some TikTok technical difficulties. I'm getting some videos out, but we're working on it. And then always go subscribe on YouTube, comment on our videos. And as everybody knows, we're on Apple Podcast and Spotify. We appreciate everybody tuning in to all of our episodes. So, yeah, I believe it's time for some 1st and 10.
Oh, it is time for some 1st and 10. And, guys, he's back like the McRib. Please welcome him, Mr. Tyler Vaughn, everybody.
Back like the McRib, baby.
Go back.
So, Tyler, been, tearing it up there at Center College in Kentucky.
Yeah, man, we're 2-0.
Back for today's 1st and 10. And, Jake, I'll let you introduce the topic. This is your thing, man.
Yeah, so for today's 1st and 10, we're going to run back the fantasy draft that we did. I believe it was week 1. So we're going to run that back. And so what we got, we took out the fan base and we're adding in defense. So what I have, we got quarterback, running back, wide receiver / tight end, a coach, and then finish it up with the defense. And the way the screen looks right now, Hunter's going to start us off with his quarterback.
Praise God. All right. Man, I'm about to get some flack. But with the first pick in the quarterback division, I'll be taking Arch Manning out of the University of Texas. Arch went 9 of 12 for 223 yards, averaging 18 yards per completion. He threw for 4 touchdowns while also running the ball 3 times for 53 yards and a touchdown, averaging 17 yards a carry with a long touchdown rush, bumping those numbers up a little bit. And he did it all in 2.5 quarters. And I get it. They were playing UTSA, but for somebody who has not seen the field a lot and has been sitting behind Quinn Ewers, whenever you are put in the spotlight, sometimes that spotlight gets too big for you, and he is soaking it all up, brother. So, first pick, I'm taking Arch Manning. Jake? Good
pick, Hunter. I like it. My pick for quarterback this week is Jalen Milroe, my Heisman pick at the beginning of the season, and I feel like this week he just stapled himself even more as a front runner. 12 of 17 on 196 yards passing with 3 touchdowns, and rushed for 75 yards with 2 touchdowns. So 5 total touchdowns on the day, going on the road to a Big Ten opponent with a program like Wisconsin. I know they're not that great this year, but they're still a big program in college football. Big week for Milroe. I believe he's one of the front runners for Heisman right now. So, yeah, that's my quarterback.
Tyler.
Yeah, so my quarterback for this week is going to be the old man out of Oklahoma State, Alan Bowman. He went 24 of 31 for 396 yards and 5 touchdowns. Oklahoma State got a win this weekend. So yeah, can't really complain about that performance out of him. So he's my quarterback this week. And I believe I'm up for the running back, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, I am going to take old Rocket out of South Carolina. He had 19 carries for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. Did all he could for the Gamecocks. Unfortunately, they couldn't get it done. Shane Beamer, tough going. I think we'll get to that later. But, yeah, so Rocket Sanders is my pick.
Good pick, Tyler. My running back this week is senior out of Auburn, Jarquez Hunter. He had, against New Mexico, they obviously got a big win at home. I wouldn't call it a big win, but 20 carries, 152 yards on the ground, averaged 7.6 yards a carry. And a touchdown. And obviously, they don't have a quarterback there. Peyton Thorne sucks. They're in shambles, but they just leaned on the run. Jarquez Hunter with a big game at home each week. He's gotten more and more carries. So, big week for him. That's my running back this week.
Hey, man, Hank Brown showed out they didn't start Peyton Thorne this week, so Hank Brown looks solid. Now they did play New Mexico, but still, they still got a question mark at the quarterback position. But we're going to talk about running backs. I'm going to take Henry Parrish Jr. from Ole Miss. They played Wake Forest this past week. He had 22 carries, 133 yards, averaging 6 a pop, had 2 touchdowns and a long of 25. I know Wake Forest isn't nothing to really shake a stick at when you're a team with the talent of Ole Miss, but I say that's still pretty good rushing stats. All right, wide receiver. So I say this a lot on this podcast. I do not name these children. They just it's my job to mispronounce their names. So my receiver, I'm going to take Dejon Stribling from Oklahoma State. He had 7 receptions, 174 yards. He was averaging 25 a reception and had 2 touchdowns.
Love it. Good pick. I like it. So my pick is for receiver this week is a guy I feel like as college football fans, we've been waiting for him to really break out, even though his team hadn't really played anybody. Luther Burden. First 2 weeks, he only had 7 catches for like a combined 7 yards through 2 weeks. This week against Boston College in a ranked game at home, 6 catches, 117 yards with a touchdown. Another big week. I feel like Missouri's fan base, especially, they were just waiting for a big breakout game from him. So that's my receiver of the week. Tyler?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with a team that took down an SEC opponent, Georgia State's Ted Hurst. He had 7 catches for 128 yards and touchdowns. It's a little over 18 yards per catch. Played a huge part in them taking down Vandy this week, so he's going to be my receiver. And so are we going coach and then defense or defense then coach?
You pick.
I'm going to go defense here. So my defensive pick, this pains me to say, but going with the Kentucky Wildcats. They held the number 1 team in the land to a whopping 13 points. That's all I need to say. They held Georgia to 13 points. So they're my defense of the week.
Good pick, Tyler. Won't say much more on that one. Unfortunately, my defense of the week, I'm staying in the same game as my wide receiver. Or actually, I never even took him, so never mind. I'm going with Ole Miss's defense. One of my best bets last week was the over in that game, and I knew that Ole Miss was going to score some points, but I truly believe that Wake Forest was going to be able to score between 17 and 24 points. I'm not set on Ole Miss's defense, but they only gave up 6. I know that's not saying much to Wake Forest, but I've been really low on Ole Miss's defense, and I think it's time for me to give them a little credit. Even though they haven't played much of anybody, they might struggle this weekend with the high-power offense coming to Oxford, Georgia Southern. So that's my defense.
That's right. Well, you took my 2 defenses off the board. I didn't have a third one written down. I'm stuck between 2 that I'm looking at this screen, and as much as it pains me to say it, I'm going to take Colorado. They held Colorado State to only 3 field goals. And that defense last year was abysmal, especially as the season got longer and longer and longer. And just want to throw it out there for everybody that's listening. The Colorado defense has never allowed a touchdown with Shiloh Sanders not playing in a game. So it might have something to do with it, might not. But I'm going with them. I mean, you don't allow a touchdown against your rival in a game that they were coming out as their Super Bowl. I feel like it's pretty impressive. So give me the Buffs defense. I guess I got to pick a coach. I'll take Jake Dykert from Washington State. That team, they did dirty with the whole realignment. They get Washington, who's making all this Big Ten CBS money coming to town, the first Apple Cup after all the aftermath, and they get it done as the visiting team traveling to Seattle, and they are undefeated up to this point. And I feel like it takes a really good coach to get a team up for just a season like this after everything that happened to them, and then to get them up to play a Washington team who is their rival after losing a bunch of portal talent. I'll take Jake Dykert and the Washington State Cougars for my head coach.
Good pick. My coach, I had Sark written down, but Sark didn't play anybody. Give me Mark Stoops. Even though they lost the football game, after last week's performance against South Carolina. It's hard to get your guys back up when the number one team's coming to town. He had them ready. They came out and played very physical. Had him. I know he's getting a lot of heat after the 4th and 6 decision to punt, but I think you had to do that there. In my opinion, I think it was a good call. He had him in a position to win, and that's all you can ask for. The number one team in the country coming to town. So, Mark Stoops, my coach of the week.
So I was going to go with Silverfield out of Memphis, but honestly, Florida State might be so bad that that's not that impressive anymore. So I'm going with best name I think I might have ever heard. A man named Major Applewhite. He's the head coach of South Alabama. They put up 87 freaking points in a football game. That's nuts. And if you can do that, you're a pretty damn good coach, in my opinion. So I'm going with my guy Major as my coach of the week.
Hey, Sunbelt supremacy, say it all the time, brother. But only for right now with South Alabama. We got them in a few weeks. So right now, I'll let them have the praise.
Hey, before we get off this, I got to shout out Miami's defense. They held Ball State to 115 yards, only 6 rushing yards allowed. So shout out.
There was one defense I also wanted to shout out. I didn't even see it. I did have a third defense written down, and I didn't take them. Toledo. They held an SEC offense and Jeff Levy to 17 points with all those cowbells going on the road as a MAC school. I'll take Toledo. But and also, I don't think we have them covered in anywhere else in the show. So shout out Toledo and the MAC for getting another. The MAC's just on a roll the past 2 weeks.
They are.
But Tyler, we will bring you back in for the others note at the end.
Sounds good.
Yes, sir. Jake, it's time to talk some week 3. Let's hop right into it, brother.
Let's do it.
All right. The noon kickoff on ESPN this past week was LSU traveling to South Carolina. We all knew LSU needed this win. They needed it like oxygen after losing the early opener to USC. I mean, this is a team everybody's talking about. You know, they got playoff potential. Like Garrett Nussmeier's that guy. Like, can they improve the defense? And South Carolina, a team that everybody was really low on heading into the season. And then they beat the crap out of Kentucky in week 2. Nobody saw that one coming. Line comes out, only 7 points for South Carolina. Everybody's a little concerned. Like, who knows what's going to happen in this game? 2 teams on completely different trajectories, I should say. And LSU does end up coming out on top, 36-33. Lenore Sellers does go down the fourth quarter. Definitely some – I'm not a huge blame the refs guy, and I'm not saying they necessarily changed the outcome of this game, but there definitely were a few calls that went towards LSU winning this game rather than South Carolina. And obviously, when you have Robbie Ashford leading your team for a game-winning or game-tying drive in the fourth quarter, that's never a good thing. So, Jake, I'll kind of let you hit on some key points that you thought of in this game, and I'll clean it up for you.
Yeah, I think this is one of those games. It felt like neither team wanted to win. A bunch of just dumb penalties, dumb mistakes from both teams. And it was like, who's going to give it up more? You know what I mean? LSU ultimately gets away with it. Brian Kelly's lucky, man, because imagine the questions that come up if you're 1-2 and you still have to play Ole Miss, you still have to play Bama. But Lenore Sellers, I know he went down. Shout out Robbie Ashford on the Auburn squad last year, coming up for South Carolina. He got in there. I only think he threw the ball like 4 times, 5 times, something like that. He didn't really do anything. Rocket Sanders, he had another great week. But Lenore Sellers, I talked about in the preview him as a passer, and I feel like their offense coordinator did a good job of minimizing how much he had to do as a quarterback. A lot of design runs for him, and Lenore Sellers, he can really run the ball. But I mean, LSU, yeah, you won the game, but a lot of dumb mistakes, a lot just sloppy. Both teams are sloppy. LSU even more. I would expect South Carolina to be sloppy in this situation just because they're on a high coming off Kentucky game day coming to town. A lot of emotions going around. So, but LSU, I mean, I looked at their schedule. You have like really 2 weeks to get on the same page because then you have Ole Miss at home, and that could be a wake up call. Yeah, that's what I got on that one.
Yeah, man. That South Carolina defense is good. I know they gave up 36 points at the end of the day, but one of those coming off a very short field in the fourth quarter after the Robbie Ashford fumble. I still think the defense is better than what I anticipated. That front seven looks pretty legit. Shout out to Garrett Meyer for sticking in it for 4 quarters. I mean, he had every reason.
Yeah, he took a beating.
Yeah, he had every reason to kind of just give up in a sense. I don't know. It was weird. It's one of those things like you get hit enough and you're not completing as many passes as you like to, you lose your confidence and you kind of lay down. He never did that. Lenore Sellers, for the 3.5 quarters or 3 quarters that he was playing in this game, man, like he's so dynamic in what he can do. And that run offense between him and Rocket Sanders is legit. But I need to see it out of that arm, dude. He still is yet to show me anything as an actual quarterback as far as throwing the ball. And I know he's just a freshman. There's plenty of time. But also, LSU's defense, man, giving up 33 to Carolina. Woo! They might be in for a little long haul. I mean, I kid you not. Like that Brian Kelly hot seat take, it's still out there. But for next year, there was always Brian Kelly will enter 2025 on the hot seat. If he would have lost this game, he would have been going the rest of 2024 on the hot seat. So that's all I got on that one. But moving on. Woo! Sunbelt Billy is going to be jobless in a few weeks. Oh, my gosh. This was abysmal. That guy sucks. When your fans are chanting at halftime to fire you, and then you're just up there going, yeah, like, I mean, they have every right to say that because, we're not giving them a good performance. Like, yeah, no, it's time to start Lagway. Just start him.
Yeah.
Don't have him
quit going back and forth.
Yeah, that's not helping. That's not helping Lagway, and it's also not helping Graham Mertz. That doesn't help your starting quarterback whatsoever. Let's see. Lagway, 6 of 13, 2 picks. Mertz, a pick, a touchdown, 195 yards. Just the offense sucked. They had a garbage time touchdown at the end, went for 2 and didn't get it. But especially sucked in the first half as they laid a huge goose egg. And shout out to Marcel Reed. I don't know who's evaluating the quarterback position at Texas A&M, but if he's not trotting out on the field, barring injury, the next that was week 3. Let's see how many more games they got. 8, 9. The next 9 games that they have. I'm going to be concerned. This guy is what Colin Klein wants as a play caller at quarterback for Texas A&M. It's not Connor Wegman. Like, yes, Connor Wegman might be more talented than he is, but as far as running your offense and getting offensive efficiency, this needs to be the guy that you have going under center every week. And once again, Le'Veon Moss, this guy has came out of nowhere as a guy. We knew that, they got a few guys up front, but who's going to be the back that comes out of there that looks good? And it's Le'Veon Moss, 18 carries, 110 yards, averaging 6 a pop. Didn't quite get in the end zone, but Marcel Reed, we're talking about a dual threat quarterback, 13 carries, 83 yards, and 6 yards per carry, and a touchdown. And he threw 2 through the air. That guy's legit. Jake, I'll let you cover the rest.
Yeah, I mean, you hit everything I had to say right on. I mean, hit the nail on the head. That was good. Obviously, everybody knows this Florida team's in shambles, and I think you hit a little bit more on their offense. But their defense is really bad, too. You have a true freshman quarterback starting at home and just looked comfortable, looked like he's been there. It didn't look like a true freshman in his first start on the road in the SEC. He did exactly what he had to do, and they couldn't do anything to stop him through the air. I know he only had 178 yards, but he ran the ball for almost 102. The run defense, I mean, Le'Veon Moss had 100 yards. Excuse me. Marcel Reed had 80 yards, and then their other running back, Maury Daniels, had 13 carries for 70 yards. So the run defense, everybody knows this Florida team's in shambles. But I think it's more of a testament to A&M and Mike Elko with true freshman quarterback. I mean, like you said, whoever's evaluating the quarterback position up there, why haven't we seen this guy yet? Why didn't we see this guy the week after the Notre Dame game? He can run better than Wegman. He might not be as good as a passer, but hell, I mean, he only had 6 incompletions, no interceptions. I mean, he should continue to start up there. And the thing, I'm sorry, a little bit under the weather. The thing with A&M that I'm going to hang on to, I still think there's a path for A&M. A&M. That you showed that you can score some points this week on the road. I know you had the week 1 game. I mean, you got 1 loss, but your toughest 3 opponents left. You have Mizzou, LSU, and Texas. You get all those at home. Other than that, there's not a very, oh my gosh, game on the road. So I still think there's a path for A&M. If Marcel Reed continues to perform all of his easy games he gets at Kyle Field. So we'll see what's in store for A&M.
I agree. I think there is a path for the Aggies still. And I would really like to see Marcel Reed develop. He's a youngin'.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going anywhere anytime soon. And I think the biggest thing is like turnovers and keeping the ball safe. And like, it's not like either one of them have thrown the ball an outrageous amount of times. I mean, they ran the ball 55 times and only threw it 17. So
And now that we've seen through 3 weeks that Le'Veon Moss is that guy, he can be that guy for you. He can lean on if they can lean on the run and have Marcel Reed as another run option, and he doesn't have to do much through the air. I mean, that's dangerous, man, because Wegman hadn't really shown much running the football. And Marcel Reed has the ability to pull it. That's really good for their offense. So
I agree, but shout out to the Aggies. I mean, they needed this win. They needed it. Yeah. They're, going to the swamp, and I know Florida sucks. Like, I actually didn't expect Florida to suck that bad, if I'm being honest, but they needed this win. They, as in Texas A&M, after dropping that week 1 to Notre Dame, and now I think they still got everything in front of them, like you said. So be interesting to watch that team throughout the next few weeks. And here are some other games. We actually did do a full preview on Bama, Wisconsin, but as you can tell by the score, there's not a lot to dive into besides Alabama is still very good, and this is what you would expect out of a Nick Saban coach team to do to a Wisconsin team. Now, granted, I will say, and not that I think for a split second it would have changed the result and the outcome of the game, but Tyler Van Dyke did get severely injured on the very first drive, and that Wisconsin team was moving the ball down the field on that first drive. And that backup just had nothing after that. Yeah. Like, he was not very good at all. And I'm not, like I said, I think Bama still takes care of business. I still think they win by 2.5, 3 possessions. But, I think it would have been more competitive. I think it would have been – I don't know if Bama would have put up 42. I think Wisconsin may have been able to, sustain some drives and not have as many 3-and-outs and punting the ball as much. But that's not all I had on that game. Jake, anything you need to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like you're saying, Van Dyke, I mean, I think he was 5 of 5 on that drive when he got hurt. I mean, he was rolling, and that really took the air out of the whole team and really the fan base. So, but yeah, my biggest concern with Wisconsin is as big of a program they are in the country, there's no playmakers on that football team. Luke Fickell, I don't know anything about his recruiting, but there's no standout guys on either side of the football to me that I saw, at least. So I think that's a concern. You got to start recruiting, especially. I mean, that's a program that you expect to be in contention in the Big Ten each year. So yeah, Milroe, I already talked about him in the fantasy draft. Milroe for Heisman, baby. He's tearing it up on the road. First road test of the season. Looked very good. Looked almost perfect. I mean, he played very well. And Ryan Williams, the true freshman. I think he had 4 catches, 78 yards, another touchdown. That was one of the things I talked about in the preview of this game was going on the road, true freshman wide receiver. Can you continue to get him the ball? Is he going to still play good, be locked in, no mental mistakes, anything? He played great. Really looking forward to seeing what Milroe and Ryan Williams get into, especially in 2 weeks when they get Georgia at home.
Hey, Jake, just a quick question. Did you know that Ryan Williams was 17 by chance? Did you happen to know that at all?
I did.
Oh, okay.
I did.
Just making sure that you knew because ESPN and Fox and everybody else, we're going to make sure you know. Anyways, 2 other quick games here. Arizona traveled to Kansas State, and Avery Johnson finally stood out. Yeah. I was on Kansas State in this one. I think you were leaning Arizona.
Yeah.
Man, I feel bad for Fafita. Dude, man, I wish Jeb Fish would have never taken that job in Washington, as part of that Saban collateral damage. Dude, I just feel like this team could have been so special if they would have been able to maintain their entire roster, but they lost so many guys, especially on the defense side of the ball, which we've seen through 3 weeks. All that Fafita's got is McMillan to throw the ball to, and He can only do so much. And now, with Cam Rising being his health up in the air right now, Kansas State, if they can keep up on this trajectory and start building some confidence, they might be the new front runner in the Big 12. It'll be interesting to see for sure. Is there anything you need to touch up on as far as that Friday night game goes?
Yeah, this was probably. I mean, I watched this game on the way up to Lexington in the car, and I was on Arizona, like you said, and they really. So they went up 7-3. I think they scored first, and it was 7-3. And in the second quarter, Kansas State returned a punt, and that just took the breath out of them. I mean, the momentum just completely flipped. And something I noted in the car when I was watching was the penalties for Arizona. There were a lot of drives where Arizona would have a 3rd and 5 or 2nd and 4, something like that, and they'd have a holding call to get them backed up. So I went back and looked at the penalty split. Arizona had 9 penalties with 74 total yards of putting themselves behind the sticks, and Kansas State only had 3 penalties for 20 yards. So that's a big difference. 54 yards differential and penalties. Can't get yourself behind the sticks, especially on the road, and a lot of them were on offense. And Avery Johnson, like you said, he stood out. But my thing with him is I still got to see it from the passing standpoint and just a decision standpoint. There were a lot of questionable throws that he made. And running the football, no question. He had 17 carries for 110 yards. But as a passer and as a quarterback, just the decisions he makes, like at halftime, I think I texted you and Tyler in the group chat. They had a chance to either score a touchdown or get 3. I think they were on like the 15, 20-yard line. There were 12 seconds left. I think they still had a timeout. And he drops back. Pressure gets to him. He's rolling out, scrambling. And they were on the left hash. He gets on the left side of the box, rolls all the way back out to the right side of the football field, runs out of bounds, and time went out. And then like 3 seconds later, you saw him just throw his hands up. Like, dude, he has to be aware of those kind of things, especially in that kind of game when you have a ranked opponent, same conference at home. You got to be aware of those situations. So yeah, he's still young. I think he's only a sophomore. So, but yeah, like you said, if Kansas State keeps it up with Cam Rising's health, I mean, it's going to be not going to be too bad for him in the future. And I don't think they have to play Utah. I could be wrong, but do they? I don't think they play Utah, do they?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
No, they don't.
Okay.
They play. They get Oklahoma State at home. So,
okay.
But yeah.
But no, I agree with you as far as the passing goes for Avery Johnson. It's not that like the potential's there. Like it's not like
that kid's got a cannon. He's got a freaking. I mean, he can spin it.
And the fact that he does have that elusiveness with his legs, like he's gonna be good. But you're right, I do have to see it through the air too. But I think he's definitely got the potential there to continue to develop throughout the year. Another key point is Dylan Edwards. Shout out to him. A lot of people, questioning why he left Colorado as the premier back, and he was the game changer. He flipped the entire momentum, flipped the game on its head, and prevailed Kansas State to the win. That 71-yard punt return to the house. So, yeah, interested to see how Arizona finishes out, though, man. Because I don't think they're a terrible team. I
don't think so.
Very interested to see how that goes. But last up for the Week 3 recap, as far as individual games goes, we did talk about Boston College versus Missouri for a split second last week. Man, Missouri, the penalties, dude. You want to talk about some penalties? My goodness, Missouri was just behind the sticks. I mean, I looked up one time, they had a 2nd and 59 and a 3rd and 57. I mean, talk about some penalties. That's bad. It looked like Luther Burden was losing his cool a little bit. I got to keep that under control. But he's a playmaker, has all the potential in the world. He can definitely get the job done. Brady Cook, I'm still up in the air on him. Some people really love him. Some people are like, oh, he's overrated. I'm just like, he's okay. I don't know. I want to see him play some really, really tough defenses. But shout out to Boston College, man. Like nobody in the country in the preseason would have imagined you rolling into Tallahassee and whooping Florida State and then going to Columbia, Missouri and keeping it within one possession. So Bill O'Brien's definitely getting the things rolling up there in Chestnut Hill. I don't have a lot on this game as far as it goes. Like, yeah, Missouri won. They should have covered. We'll get to that in a second. They pissed me off. But, yeah, Jake, anything else you need to add?
Yeah, not a lot on this one. I only saw the first quarter. I was glad to see that. Missouri finally got Luther Burden going. We needed to see that, especially before going into SEC play. And like you said, I'm not very sold on Brady Cook yet. I mean, he's just kind of up in the air. I think we can name 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the SEC that are better than him. I really think we can. So I think it's going to take a few weeks, especially when we start to see Missouri play SEC defenses. He goes on the road. We'll really see what he's made of. But yeah, Missouri's defense, I mean, they kind of didn't look that great. I mean, Castellanos threw 2 picks when they were driving, and 2 of those or one of those led to a touchdown. This game could have went way differently if you take away the pick because the first pick that Castellanos threw led to the Luther Burden touchdown immediately. They only had like 30 yards to go. So if you take away that interception, this game probably goes a little bit differently. And Boston College really didn't have that much trouble moving the football. So a lot of questions with this Missouri team, I feel like. And I think they're ranked number 7 in the country. And I think they're out of all the teams in the top 10, they're the team with the most questions just because we haven't seen it. And also, just a little story from Saturday while I was in Lexington. Obviously, FanDuel, DraftKings, got to get on those up there. And I get on DraftKings, logged in. It's like 12:30. That game was a 12:45 kick. LSU game was already going. The Bama game was already going. And I saw the first game I saw it was Boston College, Missouri. And I knew you were on Missouri -16. And I was like, I can't do that. I don't believe it. I'm glad I didn't. And then I was like, I thought about it. And I was like, the only way Boston College wins this football game is if they just run the ball, try to drain as much time off the clock as they can. So I went to first quarter and first half spread, and I got the first quarter, and it was 3.5 points. And I was like, that's it. That's the play. I told my friends, I was like, Boston College, if they get the ball, they're going to take like 10 minutes of clock in their first drive. They're just going to try to run it. Boston College gets the ball first. Takes 8 minutes off their first drive, goes down and score a touchdown. It was so awesome. Got the juices flowing. That was the best memory of my trip was picking Boston College. First quarter spread. I loved it. That was 3.5. So, yeah.
Hey, nice pick, dude. Nice pick.
It was awesome.
But for those listening on podcast, this next slide is just titled, Oh, No. And I'm going to let Mr. Stinchcomb have the floor.
Yeah, so everybody knows how the Dogs played on Saturday. I think there's a lot of overreactions from the Georgia fan base, especially about Mike Bobo. The play call, everybody's complaining about the play call. Fire Mike Bobo. He sucks. Mike doo-doo. I don't necessarily agree with it because, first of all, your quarterback dropped the ball 2 times. Why we continued to fumble the ball, it makes no sense. But your quarterback fumbled the ball twice. The it was just execution problems on offense. The quarterback, Carson Beck, and the receivers just looked like they had never played football together before. Like there were a lot of routes where, like when they'd run, it looked like they're running a corner and he'd like overthrow them, but they were supposed to stop. Just like those kind of small details. And it was, I think, from my perspective, watching the game, it was execution, not the play calling. Mike Bobo, I mean, especially in the second half when he got them going, but it was just execution. We couldn't, Carson Beck, I mean, everybody across the board. And I think this is more props to Kentucky for the way they came out. I mean, they out-physicaled us. They outplayed us. Brock Vandegrift, I know the numbers don't show it, but there were a lot of times when the play was dead and he got out of the pocket and got first downs on his feet, which kept them in the game, really. And, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I saw a stat. Sorry, I don't have any notes on this game. I was just too mad. But in the past 5 years, Georgia's been held to under 20 points in 3 games, 3 times. All 3 are at Kentucky. And people got to realize, first road game in the SEC, I don't care who it is. A win's a win. We move on. We got a bye week. And Kirby, I mean, he looked very excited in the presser about Alabama. We got things to work on, and it's hell week for Georgia this week. So, got a lot to work on. It sucks to have Tate going out, but next man up. Georgia's always got him. No excuses for Georgia to play like that, though. It never should have been this close. But a win's a win, and you move on, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, no, I agree. A win is a win, and it does not matter if it's by 1 point or if it's by 71 points like Tennessee had this week. It goes down as a win in the win column. Like you said, first road game, but I'm tired of hearing these stupid Georgia fans trying to tell me that Kentucky is one of the toughest places to play in the country. It's not. I can name probably 12 schools in the SEC that it's harder to play at than Kentucky on a
Yeah.
consistent basis. Um, Bobo sucks, Jake. I'm sorry. I'm not saying he's like the sole reason about this game. Like, I'm not talking about this game individually, but like, yeah, I already talked about this in the SEC preview. Mike Bobo sucks. Like, it's just known to man. But granted, like, the offensive line was getting whooped up front. The running backs could get nothing going. It didn't matter if it was ETN, if it was Branson Robinson, if it was Nate Frazier, it didn't matter. Carson Beck, that was the worst game I think he'll ever play in the University of Georgia. He will not play a game that bad ever again. So there were just a lot. And here's the thing, and I think this is a shout out to how good Georgia truly is. Georgia can play by far their worst game and have all these things go wrong, and they still win.
Yeah.
That's a big testament to this team. And like you said, like I think Kirby will get them right. I think he will. Like you said, this week is hell week, but we'll see.
Yeah. And maybe this is what this team needed. Being ranked number 1, and now you get jumped, and now you can get back to the narrative of what you had the past few years is nobody thinks you're good. And now especially that you barely got past Kentucky. Maybe this is a little bit of motivation. We'll see. And another point that I didn't make, and you talked about getting the run game going. I feel like I talk about this in every SEC football game preview. If you can't run the ball in the SEC, you're not going to win football games. That's just the bottom line. And it showed against Kentucky. We could not get the run game going. We could not do it. And if you can't do that, you're not going to win. I'm sorry, especially when you go on the road to Tuscaloosa, on the road to Ole Miss, on the road to Texas. It's just not going to happen. So when we can't get the run game going and we're dropping back, can't catch a snap for one, and then he looks like he was out downtown Lexington all night. I mean, he looked terrible in the pocket. It was frustrating to see. You got to be able to run the ball. You have to be able to get the run game going. So that was frustrating. And it felt like at halftime, we're sitting in the stands, and I'm like, okay, we're down, but we're in a good spot. Kirby's going to get him right. We're going to win this game like 28-6. No, I mean, it was just we came out flat again in the second half, couldn't get anything going. So it was really hard to watch. Very scary, especially being there. But, yeah.
I will say also it never truly was in doubt for me that Georgia was going to win this game. Like, even – and it all happened whenever he punted on the 4th and 6. I already know you brought it up, and I don't really have a side on one way or the other on that. Especially with a team that already has a loss on the season, has a full SEC slate to go. But, whenever they punted, I was like, okay, this is going to be the turntables. Because here's the thing. Georgia's just got too many dudes to where it might not happen in the third quarter. It might not happen at the beginning of the fourth quarter. It might take until your second to last offensive drive. But eventually, they will wear you down, and they will find a way to punch it in. And that's just that was kind of my entire thought process behind it. But, like, this is kind of what happened. So I get off of work at halftime of the Georgia Southern game. Shout out Eagles, 142-14. We'll get to more of that on the Eagle Report. Get off at halftime. Georgia game hasn't started yet. So my buddy, shout out Blake Overton, Mr. Jason, they had a box at the Georgia Southern game, season tickets, whatever. So I go and hop in there. And the Georgia game's on in the TV in the box. So I have the best of both worlds literally right in front of me. Like, I get to watch the entire Georgia Southern game, and I got the UGA game up on the TV. Awesome. And I'm like, oh, okay, Kentucky goes out, kicks a field goal, cool. Oh, okay. They kick another field goal, whatever. I was like, oh, man, offense really needs to get going. I was like, oh, okay, we get 3 back. Oh, that's it? 6-3 at halftime? All right, so then I hop in the truck, go home. Traffic is terrible down here. I get back right around at the end of halftime, like perfect time, and rushing in the house, thinking I missed something. I'm like, okay, well, just like you said, I was like, man, they'll come out. this is going to be just like the Clemson game. They're going to come out, they're going to fire on all cylinders, and this is going to be a blowout in the third and fourth quarter, and it just never came to fruition. So definitely an uh-oh moment, like a uh-oh. But I think the biggest thing that you brought up, and I was on the phone with a buddy about it today, Vandegrift's legs kept Kentucky in this game.
Yeah, they did 100%.
Oh.
If you take away his runs, it's not close. Well, I mean, it might be 13-0, but they don't score.
Oh, and if you can't settle down Brock Vandegrift's legs on third down in Lexington, man, they're gonna have a hard time with Jalen Milroe in 2 weeks. That's all I gotta say. So that's about all I have on this game as far as that goes. And all right, let's review some best bets. Let's get the subject changed a little bit from the Bulldogs. I'm sure we'll have more on them in the next 2 weeks. But yeah, I dropped below 500 this week. Went 1-2 again. Shout out to Ole Miss covering every spread this year. And man, Colorado State, you couldn't do it for me. You couldn't even slip a backdoor cover in there, dude. I really thought they were going to get up for this one and at least keep it within 2 possessions. But Texas State was the right read. Man, I wish they would have won that game for the Sun Belt. We already talked about Mizzou a little bit, so they didn't cover. They had it. They definitely could have covered it, and they just let it slip through their fingers. And, Jake, I'll let you cover your 3 games real fast.
Yeah, Oregon, I love this pick. I was going to bank on this until it happened, just the Oregon get-back spot, and this was the perfect week for it. Big week for them. I had them straight up on the spread, too. That was a good pick, and the over cashed. The over in the Oregon State game tends to always hit. Shout out Ole Miss's defense. I really thought, and I talked about this earlier, that Wake Forest were going to be able to put up more than 6 points, but they didn't. So shout out Ole Miss defense. And West Virginia, man, I wasn't able to watch this game. This was right before. This was during the 3:30 slate, and the bar did not have this game on that we were in Lexington. So I was keeping up with it on my phone, but it seemed like they had every chance to win, and just ultimately gave it away. So yeah, those 3 best bets. Not really great this week for me and Hunt, but we're going to bounce back.
This is the worst week we've had yet. It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still 3 games up, so I'm the one that really needs to turn it around here. So, but yeah, as far as West Virginia goes, dude, they were winning by 2 possessions at halftime and in the third quarter. Dude, Pittsburgh, fourth quarter merchants. I got more on the Panthers in a little bit, but you're right that you were on the right side of that one. So. Don't be beating yourself up too bad. And then, oh my gosh, this one hurt my soul.
Oh.
This one hurt my soul to the core. I thought we were finally going to get on the board. A&M, lock, UCF. I mean, you couldn't stick a piece of pine straw between my rear end in that fourth quarter. My gosh, that was an awesome game. I can't believe, that was the under-the-radar game of the week. That game rocked against TCU, winning by 1 point. And so it all came down to this. And then I get a notification. Diego Pisson-Pavia scores with 38 seconds left against Georgia State. I was like, they're going to do it. They're going to hit the win total over, and they're going to cash the parlay. And then I shit you not, 38 seconds later, Georgia State scores a game-winning touchdown. And I was just like, it could have been anybody too. I was like, the 1 week we put in Vandy. And not only that, they had to crap down their leg to my most hated rival in Georgia State. I don't even want to talk about this parlay anymore. I don't even know if you got anything else to add.
I don't. Vandy, come on, man. We were so high on Vandy. We were so high on them.
Gosh, that would hurt my soul.
Yeah.
But we did win $100 on this one.
Best part of the week, baby.
Yes. And it took
this was
how long did it take?
2 minutes.
One drive?
Yeah.
One
this
drive?
was sweat free. We even got a little insurance. Had 2 more in the first half. 3 total touchdowns in the first half. What a read. I loved it. This was a good little 2-man to get us back in the win column.
And I will give every inch of credit to Jake Sturgis on this one, because when we were making this last week, I was like, dude, I don't love any of these college football scores. Like, dude, James Cook is getting in the end zone. And he's like, we just pair it up with the Caleb Williams half a yard and we'll be good. And I was like, all right, man. I was like, he didn't get in at all last week. He said he's due. And not only was he due for one, I mean, he got made up for last week and next week. putting in all three. Shout out James Cook and Jake. That was a great pick by you, man.
Thank you.
All right. Impressive week. Oh, sorry. Impressive teams, not impressive week. Impressive teams from week 2. First up, well, Jake, I know I kind of put these on here, but I figured, you didn't have any disagreements with it. So if there's anybody else you'd like to shout out, please feel free. But first team I put on here was the UCF Knights. I mean, dude, down 28 points going into the second half, and then coming out on top on the road at Fort Worth. Gus Malzahn and KJ Jefferson got it rolling. Hey, Tyler, I know you're not on the screen, but you can see me down there. Yeah, all that hate you were giving me for being high on UCF. I mean, I know it was TCU, but still, that's a big win for the program. So that's on you. Yeah, that's what I thought. Jake, I know you've been talking about the Tide, so I'll let you cover them real fast.
Yeah, I thought. I've already talked about them, I think, twice now. But just to go on a road to a Big Ten team and win by that big of a margin, I know they didn't have their quarterback, but they didn't look. There were no questions across the board, defensively or offensively. So that's a good look, especially going into the bye week. And then you got Georgia coming to town, and the way Georgia played, Alabama really high right now. So good look from them. Our last impressive team of the week, we got Colorado. I actually saw none of this game, but I saw the scoreboard. I know Hunt might have a little bit more to say. But just for Colorado, after last year's game against Colorado State, to win significantly like that, and I think it's just a lot about their defense. And it's the same. We've talked the past few weeks. It's been the same old Colorado team. Doesn't have a defense, but gave up 7 points against your rival. Pretty good look. So,
yeah, I'm pretty sure they gave up 9. That's 3 field goals.
9.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So they didn't allow them in the end zone. I already talked about that in the fantasy draft when I took them as my defense of the week. But I think the more impressive thing to me about Colorado this week was I didn't hear any chirping. All I heard was Colorado State players getting on the mic, talking trash. Oh, they're coming into our house now. They're really going to get a dose of reality and saying we should have murdered them last year and all this other stuff. And I didn't see any reports of Colorado, replying back or trying to start anything. They, for the first time and probably the only time ever, let their play on the field do the talking for them. That's why I was impressed. Didn't allow a touchdown. Another thing I do want to hit on is the offensive line. I know they're playing Colorado State, whatever, but still they had every right to still allow Shedeur to get sacked a lot, and they didn't. They didn't. Yeah. They stood in there and they protected them. So that's why I was impressed by Colorado in week 2.
Yep.
The disappointing teams. Oh gosh, dude, this part sucks. All SEC teams from week 3. Jake, you and I have already hit on Georgia. I feel like there's really no need to continue to beat the dead horse here. We already hit on Vandy. Shout out to Vandy for finally getting everybody in the country behind you, and then in typical Vandy fashion, pissing down your leg. And then you got Mississippi State. We ain't talked about this game a lot. I know I shouted out Toledo, but dude, I don't know if you've seen any of Brandon Walker's comments about this.
Yeah.
But they're funny. They are funny.
Yeah.
As he said, it looked like Toledo was better in every aspect of the game from start to finish. I'm going to just take exactly what he said and copy and paste it onto here. When you're a MAC school going to play one of these top programs like Notre Dame or an SEC school or a Power 4 school, whatever, you want to just if you're trying to pull off the upset, you're typically just hoping that you're within a possession and a half going into the fourth quarter and just hope the ball bounces your way.
Yeah.
But that was not the case this game. I mean, from start to finish, Toledo
manhandled them,
destroyed Mississippi State. And now, man, hey, do you know who Mississippi State plays this week?
No, I do not. Is it Auburn?
They are welcoming the Florida Gators to town.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You want to talk about setting football back 30 years. Do not tune in to Mississippi State versus Florida. My goodness, that's going to be atrocious football. But
yeah, it is.
Those are my 3 disappointing teams from this week.
Yep.
And here's the favorite segment for Jake and Hunt. When doing the recaps, we got fire and ice. I'll go first with my coach, player, and team I have on fire, and I've already hit on all of these guys, actually, except for one. And it's the coach, Pat Narduzzi, head coach of the Pitt Panthers. So going on, I know they were playing at home. I'm pretty sure they were playing at home against West Virginia, biggest rivalry, Super Bowl for both of these teams, and just coming out on top, fourth quarter, finding a way to get it done. And he's done this in back-to-back weeks now. So he did the same thing in Cincinnati. I mean, down more than one possession going into the fourth quarter, back-to-back weeks. And I think it takes a special coach to get your team to be resilient and to find a way to win. That's why I chose Pat Narduzzi as my coach of On Fire. And then player, I already talked about him too. Arch Manning, I already read off his stats at the beginning. That kid's going to be special. I can't wait to watch it. Team, Washington State, I already discussed them too. Had to travel to Seattle, play in the Apple Cup, and getting the job done. They are undefeated, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but like they're about to play a fully loaded Mountain West schedule, and they've looked really good on offense. Could they be the G5 team to represent the playoff? Wouldn't that be some shit?
Oh my gosh!
If
I didn't think about that.
Pac-12 school, a Pac-2 member was the G5 representative, that'd be special. So shout out to them, man, because they had every reason to like just give up on this year and give up on their program altogether. So.
Yeah,
Jake.
Yeah. So I'll start with the coach. So my coach on fire this week, Steve Sarkisian. I know they had a rollover win, but the biggest thing was quarterback went down, Heisman favorite, and you have a guy on deck that came in and performed, and now all of a sudden he's like number 7 on the Heisman odds. And kept rolling, didn't miss a beat when Ewers went down. So, and now they just keep rolling each week. It seems like they just keep getting better and winning these games even easier. They haven't slowed down once. Player, I got Marcel Reed. Already talked about him in the recap of their game, but just a true freshman coming in on the road. I don't care if it is Florida and how bad they are. I don't care who it is. In the SEC, going on the road, your first true start, and you run the ball as well as you do, don't have any dumb turnovers. And now, I mean, in our opinion, you should have won the job, and I'm sure A&M – I mean, you should have won the job now. It should be your job to lose as far as A&M fans think. I would assume that's the case. And then team, I know I've already talked about them. Like, this is my 4th time, but the way Georgia played, Georgia comes to town in 2 weeks, the way they played, the way you handled business on the road at Wisconsin, haven't missed a beat yet. Yeah, I mean, they're the team on fire, no doubt, especially going into a bye week. So, Hunter, who's your coach, player, and team on ice this week?
For ice, I think you and I can, since we have the same coach, we'll leave that for last. Player on ice, shout out to Davis Warren, former starting quarterback for the Michigan Wolverines. Did you know he completed every pass he attempted this week? Just 3 times to the wrong team. Went 11-14 with 3 picks, and then got bid for Alex Orji, and they have named Alex Orji starting quarterback for this upcoming Week 4 game against USC. So, yeah, Davis Warren, man. I mean, does it get any more on ice than getting benched? I mean, I don't think so. And then the team. I think I'd be remiss. I'm pretty sure we've already had this team on ice one time, and it's only week 3. It's the Florida State Seminoles, and the fall off from Jordan Travis to DJU is the biggest fall off from Trevor Lawrence to DJU. I mean, this team sucks.
Yeah. Not
only do you go to Ireland, whatever, you lose on a game-winning field goal. I was like, okay, whatever. We were on tech. We weren't that surprised. You're like, they're overrated going into the year. They shouldn't have been ranked in the top 10. Oh, they'll get a bounce back spot against, Boston College come to town, and it wasn't even close. You got destroyed. And it's like, okay, you're 6.5-point favorites against Memphis. A Memphis team that Mike Norvell left to come to Florida State, and you welcome them with open arms and get beat 20-12. Man. At home. 0-3 to start the season. This team's not making a bowl game, and they need to start somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's not even the fact that, and I've said this before, I don't think it's all DJU's fault. Truthfully, that offensive line looks very suspect. The defense, their best game was against Memphis, but that's against Memphis. And there's a lot of other things. There's drop passes. It's not just DJU. However,
no playmakers.
If I am a high school recruit who is considering going to Florida State, and I'm like, man, this guy for his 6th year of college football, and he started out 0-3, might as well start your season's over. Like, you're not making the playoff. You're not making the ACC title game. Like, get your future in there. I would not be considering Florida State. Like, they need to start bringing in somebody else. And it's not, like I said, it's not really a DJU thing. It's more of from a recruiting standpoint and a program building standpoint, I feel like that'd be their best move. So, team on ice, Florida State. Jake, you talk about player and team, and we'll hit on Sunbelt Billy last.
Yeah, I have a few things on the Florida State thing, and especially what you were just talking about with recruiting a high school kid coming out of high school, picking which school to go to. Talk about a team on fire right now, and a team and coach and program that has a chance to do a lot of damage as far as transfer portal and offseason recruiting goes. Mario Cristobal in Miami. Florida, they're in shambles. Florida State's in shambles. Miami's the number 1 school in Florida to go to right now. So I just think that's something interesting as far as if you're a high school football player in Florida and you want to stay at home, picking from those 3 schools. Cristobal has a chance to do a lot of damage recruiting, in my opinion. And something me and my buddy were talking about, and this has nothing to do with like the game itself. Go ahead.
And Gus Malzahn UCF, but continue.
Oh, yeah, I left them out. But me and my friend were talking about this. If you're a Florida State fan, like a student that goes to Florida State, and after last year, you go 12-0, you win the ACC, you got snubbed to the playoff and get embarrassed, like coming into this year really high, and you're 0-3, like how do you get up and go to class? I just don't like imagine that being your team. I don't understand. Like if that happened to Georgia, like I wouldn't be able to go to school. I'd transfer. I'm hitting the portal and going to UNG Delano. Like I couldn't do it. Just not going to happen. And then there was one more thing I was going to say.
Hitting the portal and going to UNG Delano. That is the line of this podcast. Wow. I love that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had something else on Florida State, but I forgot what I was going to say. I'll think of it in a minute. But yeah, going into my player and team on ice, my team, I had Florida State as well, but you kind of took that, and that was the obvious pick each week until they win a football game. I have West Virginia, and it's not as much about West Virginia losing this week. It's just the fact to me that West Virginia was a team we covered coming into the season, and a lot of hype around this team going into the offseason. Everybody was looking at week 1, and I don't think a lot of people expected you to start off your season 1-2. This was a team that was talked about as veteran-led, 2 of the best running backs in the country, a team that was going to be able to compete. And so far, it doesn't look great. And I know it was a road loss, but just not a good start for West Virginia. And then my player on ice this week, I took the entire UGA offense. Like I talked about, I'm going to leave out Mike Bobo of this because I'm not one of those Georgia fans that are like, fire Mike Bobo. I'm not that. The UGA offense looked pitiful. Carson Beck looked he looked like a true freshman starting in a football game. He just couldn't catch the ball, couldn't get the run game going. Receivers were dropping passes. It was just pitiful for Georgia's offense. It was terrible. Got a lot to work on. And then I know me and Hunter can both talk about this. And this is a guy that will probably be our coach on ice until he is fired, and whenever that may be. It could be tomorrow. It could be in 2 weeks, but we'll see. But he will be my coach on ice until he's fired because he needs to be immediately. Hunt?
Sunbelt Billy.
Sunbelt Billy.
Hey, guys really good in the Sunbelt, coaching Louisiana. That's about it. It's abysmal. It's obvious that the players aren't bought in, your boosters ain't bought in, and your administration's not bought in. And they've already there's already numerous reports. They had their meeting on Sunday. They have already gathered the $28 million buyout that he's owed. It's just a matter of when and not if. I'm just sitting there going like, man, like just go ahead and do it if you're gonna do it. Like, don't drag it
Yeah.
out. That's not fair to
Don't
him.
drag it out.
It's not fair to your team. It's
Yeah.
not fair to either party there. Like, don't wait for it. Like, what are you gonna do if he beats Mississippi State and beats UCF? What are you gonna do? Like, if you're already not in on this guy, just get rid of him. But
Yeah.
it's abysmal. The team looks like complete dog shit. So Billy Napier, coach on ice.
Yep.
All right. And the top 5 for this week. All right. So mine, I'll run through mine real fast. Jake and I have the same oh no, never mind. We have the same top 2. Texas and Tennessee. We both have a number 1 and 2. I think it's pretty clear cut that Texas looks like the best team in the country through this many weeks. They've got the best win in the country, I'd say, at this point in time. Not that Michigan is a good team, but when you're looking at, traveling to the defending national champions' house in the big house and making it look as easy as they've done, that looks like the best one in the country to me up to this point. And not only that, they have taken care of business when they've played these smaller schools. They've not messed around. It's not get in and get out. It's let's throttle them for a half, and then let's bring in our second and third strings and throttle them for a second half. So that's why I got Texas 1. I got Tennessee sitting at 2 right now, probably a little high. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, they've blown everybody out. They look really good, and I think, like I've said in the past, that defense is underrated. Something to watch out for the next few weeks. Interested to see how they go. We'll talk about them in the Week 4 preview against who is it? They play in Oklahoma, and
Oklahoma.
So we'll talk about that in a little bit in the next episode. And then I got Ohio State sitting at 3. It's just like, well, they haven't played anybody, but they're Ohio State. They've taken care of business. They've blown out the teams that they have played in Akron and Western Michigan. They had a bye week this week. They're back at home. They play Marshall, Sunbelt Supremacy, beat Notre Dame 2 years ago. Shout out to the Thunder and Herd. But, yeah, they're going to get destroyed by Ohio State. But I don't know. I just like, well, Ohio State, one of the best teams in the country. No reason to really drop them out. They haven't done anything to deserve it yet. Alabama and Ole Miss, you can make the argument to move them above Ohio State. I mean, I don't think it's really that big of a deal right now. We're only through 3 weeks of football. Bama going to Madison, Wisconsin, and making it look easy. The only reason I think I have them bumped down below Ohio State, if I remember correctly, was they did struggle for 3.5 quarters against USF, but besides that, they've looked flawless. They got a bye week this week, so I think they deserve to be in the top 5. And Ole Miss, they truly have not played anybody, and that's why I have them at 5. And just compared to I already had Ohio State above Ole Miss, so I wasn't going to just jump Ole Miss for no reason.
Yeah.
And there is no reason to jump Ole Miss in front of Ohio State just due to the fact that they both have played nobody and they have not done anything to deserve to get jumped above them. So, but they've looked phenomenal through 3 weeks of football. Jackson Dart plus 1,400 to start the season on the Heisman. Now he's down to plus 700. So hopefully I'm bringing home some money on that one. But Jake, I'll let you top 5.
Yeah, I think that right now, as it stands, there's 7 teams in the country that we both, and really the country, would consider in the top 5. And it's the 5. It's Texas, Tennessee, Alabama, Miami, Georgia, and then Ole Miss and Ohio State. I think those are the 7 best teams in the country you can consider. The reason I have Ole Miss and Ohio State out are each of the teams in my top 5 have a somewhat significant win. Texas, go on the road, beat Michigan. Tennessee, essentially a road game, and Charlotte beat NC State. Bama, Big Ten win at Wisconsin. Miami, the most hyped up game of the offseason, again at Florida week 1. And then Georgia has an SEC road win, and they beat Clemson. So that's why I don't have Ole Miss and Ohio State in there. Not any smoke to them. I just think these 5 teams have way bigger wins than any of the wins on either of those teams' schedule. Texas and Tennessee, they're the 2 hottest teams in football right now. I got them at 1 and 2. Alabama, number 3. They look pretty much flawless besides those few quarters against USF. Miami, they just continue to roll. I mean, after that Florida game, it's just like they just keep knocking off these big wins, beating up on those bad teams like they're supposed to. I dropped Georgia to 5. The reason I didn't drop them out is because Georgia's still Georgia. They're going to bounce back. We've seen it before. I'm not freaking out yet. We got a bye week, and you still in 3 weeks have beat Clemson, who was ranked, and manhandled Clemson, and then you have a road SEC win all in 3 weeks. So pretty good for Georgia.
I will hit on something. I will real fast. I obviously did drop Georgia like all the way out of my rankings. The reason for it is because they through 3 weeks of play, I just feel like these 5 teams that I have ranked in front of them have looked more consistently like a top 5 team. It's just that simple. So, and it's not. And look, I still think Georgia is one of the top 5. As far as overall talent, where they're going to end up in the season at the end of the year, yes, they'll probably end up right here. No problem. Like, I'm not panicking, but I'm just saying through week 3, even though I know it says week 2 at the top, but week 3, top 5, they just haven't, that one data point against Kentucky bumped them down past these other teams. But that's that. And, subject to change till next week, as always. I'll take the stage on this one. This is the Hunter Waldrop Eagle Report. This week, my Eagles took on the South Carolina State Bulldogs and took care of business. This is an FCS school, obviously based out of South Carolina, and Georgia Southern. When you're playing a bad team or playing a lower classification team, what you're supposed to do is take care of business, and that's exactly what they did. Winning 21-7 at halftime, and ended up winning the entire game 42-14, covered the spread. Good teams win, great teams cover. Never forget that. The spread was 27.5. They won by 28. J.C. French still looking great, very efficient passing the ball, 17 of 23, only 211 passing yards, but it's efficiency right now. That's what we need, especially after last year with Davis Brin setting the all-time record for most interceptions in a single season in NCAA history or D1 history, whatever it was. We just need no turnovers, and J.C. French has done a great job up to this point of not turning the ball over. Shout out to Tyler Fromm, first touchdown scorer the other day. Love seeing that. One of my guys down here. One thing I would like to see out of this team is being able to run the ball. However, we are a very quick passing team. I don't want to call us the go-go offense like we're UNLV or anything, but our offensive line is a big question mark right now, just as far as how long can JC actually sit in the pocket to, complete some of those downfield shots. But, we'll see over the next few weeks. We got Ole Miss coming up this week, and I actually do have the luxury of being able to have the opportunity to go to this game. So I'm very excited about that. We'll be traveling to Oxford on Friday afternoon. One thing I do want to hit on the defense, we had our first defensive touchdown this week, and that's huge for us, especially after that week 1 hideous performance from against Boise State. And I know Ashton Genty's really good and everything, but still, it was bad. And the fact that we had a defensive touchdown and multiple takeaways this week, I don't care who you're playing, like that builds a defense's confidence up, and I was really glad to see that. So that was the Eagle Report. 2-1 heading on to Ole Miss. Not going to predict the upset on here, but, would love to see it. And before we get there, Tyler, you ready? All right. Mr. Tyler Vaughn, this is the editor's note. It's back. He's back. We got a note ready for him. So, Tyler, you take it away.
All right. So, for today's editor's note, we're going to be reviewing the Center College season up to this point. Through 2 weeks, the Colonels are 2-0. Week 1, we traveled up to Hanover, Indiana, and played Hanover College. And came away with a 27-12 victory. Our defense was lights out. Mario Brewer, he's a transfer safe or corner from Birmingham Southern, sophomore. He had 3 huge sacks on the day, and our offense was clicking. Jack Goman had 3 touchdown passes, 2 big throws to Carter Chandler on 2 50-50 balls that we were able to come away with. Scotty Brown with 2 touchdown catches. Love to see our senior wide receivers competing and putting up big numbers so far this year. The defense also had 3 interceptions on the day and only allowed a whopping negative 27 yards rushing. That was really big for us. Defense kept us in it most of the game. We were able to come away with a victory there. So week 2, we had our home opener against a familiar foe in Maryville College. They're out of Maryville, Tennessee. They're one of our rivals. Their head coach was here at center before he went there. There's been some history there. Last year they got us, but my freshman and sophomore year we were able to take care of business against them. So this week was more of a kind of a revenge game for us, and it was a tight one. Going into the half, we were tied 7-7. Scotty Brown had a huge field goal block right there at the end of the half to send us with a lot of momentum into the locker room. Jack Goman had a beautiful throw to Carter Chandler for the head top catch for the offensive score. And Nick Grant, who's a fifth-year safety, he had a 50-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown. That was huge for us. Our defense allowed a total of 13 yards rushing. That's been really big for us this year. Our defense is playing lights out right now. Again, Mario Brewer, the transfer, with another 3 sacks. And believe it or not, Mario Brewer leads all of Division III in sacks as a 130-pound corner. So that's a little interesting fact about Division III football for you. Mario Brewer, the cornerback, leads the country in sacks. My Colonels have the number 5 rushing defense in all of Division III. We're allowing a half a yard per carry. Coach Conley, our defense coordinator, he is putting together something special this year. And we're really excited to see what happens. So this week we're going to travel to Hampton, Sydney. They're out of Virginia for it's going to be a gritty game. They got a good ball team there. They've got a new coach, new coaching staff. So we're excited to head up there on Friday, and we're going to hopefully go in there and come away with a victory on Saturday. And so last but certainly not least, the Peach State Pride segment. So this week, not really a huge week in Georgia high school football. Our best game that I could find was Brooks County versus Pierce County. Brooks County coming in at as the number 3 team in Single A Division II, and Pierce County being number 1 team in 2A. That's going to be a good one. Some down south football. I've got Pierce County coming away with a win here. And then our next game that we're going to cover is Jake and I's alma mater. The 3-1 Jackson County Panthers are taking on the 2-2 Clark Central Gladiators. Look for Jackson County to maybe come away with a win that not a lot of people are going to expect here. They're opening up conference play this week, and I'm kind of excited to see what the Panthers can do. I think they've got a good squad this year. So we'll see what happens there. And that is our editor's note for this week.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tyler Vaughn. We appreciate you as always.
Yes, sir.
Jake, you want to close us out, my man?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, guys.
Shout out. Yep.
Go ahead. I'll close this out.
Okay. My bad. Shout out to the Kerns, baby. Shout out. I love it.
Yeah, shout out.
And I love Tyler throwing in that Jackson County preview there. We're probably going to get a 60 burger hung up on us, but maybe a few of those players will hear this and may use that as a little bit of motivation. So we'll see. But as always, go follow us on socials. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok. You can listen to us 3 different ways on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and you can watch us on YouTube. Hunter's done a good job of putting all these slideshows together for us. Next time we see you, we'll be talking some Week 4 football, a little bit of NFL recap, getting close to some October baseball. I'm excited for what the next few weeks in sports has in store. So that is podcast 129, episode 4.